so that he will not be eligible to serve as a law enforcement officer in the future. And two, that the Greensboro Police Department request that the Guilford County District Attorney review this incident again to ensure the entire investigative file is duly considered. That was moved
Second.
by Mr. Outling, seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Would you like a recorded vote on that?
I would.
Are you going to allow us to speak, Mayor? Chief, can you come back up, please? Oh, you got my mic there, okay.
Councilmember Wilkins, Councilmember Fox.
I thought we were having a discussion.
Mr. Wilkins wanted to ask a question beforehand.
Before the vote. Chief, I plan to support this resolution, and I want to thank you for all the questions that you've answered to me in closed session, in open session, and I have a lot more knowledge about this tape based on your explanations and answering my questions. Now, I don't want to make an assumption, so Mr. Attorney, might I ask you, where was this born? What was the process that this came to us? I think it would be good for the public to know how the resolution came forward.
Following the closed session motion of council on Tuesday last week, I had meetings with the Mayor Vaughan and Councilman Outling, Councilwoman Hightower, Council Member Fox. I also spoke on the phone with some other council member, and it was felt that a strong statement needed to be given regarding the inappropriateness of this gentleman to be allowed to potentially be a law enforcement officer in the future without a hearing or a complaint being filed against him at the certification level at the state. And there was also discussions about what options council could take. And as this body is aware, it is a legislative body. It is not a judicial body, and it is not an executive body. And the separation of powers under the United States Constitution, as set out since Marbury versus Madison at the onset of our constitutional jurisprudence, has held that legislative bodies may not determine probable cause nor guilt nor innocence of any American citizen. It is beyond the scope of a legislative branch. That is reserved for the judicial and for the law enforcement executive.
Thank you for that information, and I think the public needed to know that. And so we'll go back to an assumption, Chief, that you are in support of this resolution.
Yes, sir, I am.
Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Mr. Fox?
Thank you. And I appreciate the city attorney trying to respond to some of the questions. I don't know if this is an appropriate time, Mayor, but I would still like to know under terminations, GPD Directive 7.2, where it said that the chief did not find termination was appropriate. I would like to see at some point, either now or in the near future, that behavior such as the one that we've seen today and then what we've seen last week be a directive of termination, and that the individual is suspended without pay. I would like to see that somewhere revised underneath the directives in a directive manual under 7.2.12.
Could somebody repeat what he said? It was very difficult for me to hear.
I believe the council member was saying there's a directive within the police procedure manuals that talks about the elements of termination of employees that's at the discretion of the chief. And I believe he was asking for some consideration of modification of that policy in the future to potentially incorporate things such as this as an element of that point of termination. But the chief can speak directly to the policy.
Mr. Fox, does that sound accurate?
Yes, and also the second piece was to establish the suspension with no pay.
Yes.
Concerning the first policy, that is actually a directive that I added about 6 months ago. And I added it with the mindset of some of the things were happening in our country. Prior to that, we didn't have one that allowed us to supersede due process. I did weigh that out, and quite honestly, I didn't think it met that threshold, but I'm willing to have that discussion on a broader basis. Concerning the suspension without pay, that is a city policy. Our HR representative has always informed us that's been a policy of the police department, because in the event that you suspend an employee without pay and they are not found guilty of something, then we have repercussions against the city organization. I will defer that to the city attorney. That's just a city policy in general.
But my understanding, Mayor, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn because I thought we were going to vote and then speak, and then I know Jamalson addressed this, but it was going to be addressed. If they are in fact found unsustained charges, can we not then go back with retroactive pay? Because I don't see putting someone on administrative leave and then paying them for behavior that's unacceptable. Now, and obviously you're innocent before proven guilty. Let's never forget that, because that is important. And so while I value city employees, this type of behavior should never be accepted. And if we do a zero tolerance policy, which I'll speak about later, and Tom and I talked about going forward, then we can maybe avoid some of that. But to pay somebody while they're out in question doesn't speak very highly of what I think our policy ought to be. And that's just my opinion.
I think we would all agree that we shouldn't be paid for bad behavior.
And Madam Mayor, if I can, just a couple of things I just want to just touch on. So I would love that consideration, whether it's HR, whether it's with the city attorney's office, for that. But also, I need clarification that when Officer Cole and also the other female officer, when they filed the charges of assault on a government official, the only assault I've seen was the officer assaulting Mr. York. Is that not a false charge? If it is, somebody please let me know. I need clarification. Is it a false charge or is it not a false charge?
I couldn't,
I
Mr.
think
City
he-
Manager, could you hear?
Did you hear, Jim? I heard.
I've spoken with Councilman Fox about this, and it is his concern that when an assault on a law enforcement officer charge is filed in a case such as this, and it is ultimately dismissed by the district attorney's office, does that constitute a false charge or not? And the answer is there is no bright line that if a charge is dismissed, it is therefore a false charge. The district attorney in this case, it is his province to dismiss charges. He has that constitutional duty, wrote that the charges are dismissed because Officer Cole is no longer a member of the Greensboro Police Department and is not available. That does not make it a false charge. There are times when cases where charges are leveled against citizens that are not brought by the district attorney or are not convicted by a judge or a jury, and that is part of the process of justice in the United States. There's not a direct link between a charge being dismissed and it becoming a false charge.
Okay. And given that, the only thing I'm going to say, like I said, this behavior is the same thing that we've seen in the Scales case as well, and those charges dismissed. However, I'm just still very disturbed, not only about that and several other pieces in this case, but that also with the 3 months that it took, and with the chief, the city manager, and city attorney knowing about this case, and no one alerted city council of the potential harm or concern until last week. And I'm concerned that it took until members of the community, potentially the faith community, to state something and put pressure on the organization before the organization part of the city council. Now, I want something, I don't care if it's written or something to alert the city council that this is never going to happen again, that cases will arise and will be given to city council so we know exactly what's going on. We shouldn't have members in the community coming to us telling about a case and we know nothing about it. And members that report to us, mainly the city manager, city attorney, you know about it, but don't tell city council, your bosses, exactly what's going on. until 3 months later. So that to me, we're not being proactive, we're being reactive now, 3 months later.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we voting now?
We do have a motion by Mr. Outling, seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Council, please vote. Mr.
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
And that passes 8-0. Okay, at this point, we will move on to the speakers from the floor portion of our agenda, 2 minutes apiece. We do have, our first 3 speakers are Reverend Curtis Brown, Louis Pitts, Rabbi Fred Gutman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to all of you who are present. Certainly today is a very painful day. For some time now, I've been concerned not only about this particular incident, but Officer Cole's behavior prior to this. The concern I have, though, is the timeline. In the paper, this incident occurred on June 17th, and then there was a complaint on July 20th, and then there was disciplinary action enforced on August 10th, I guess. We bounced between the 10th and the 9th. But my problem is what happened and who knew and who had access to the video up to that point. Obviously, it went to Internal Affairs, and I cannot believe that even our chief did not have any knowledge until this late hour. It's just impossible to believe that. And then IA, as I understand it, Internal Affairs, and those who are part of professional standards, report to the chief. That's my understanding. And it's impossible for me to believe someone in IA or Internal Affairs had to have known, viewed this video, made a determination. I'm concerned because the timeline troubles me. If for one moment you think that we are satisfied because you're speaking against Officer Cole, that's absolutely not true. We want to know every participatory involvement up through the time when you declared this case closed. So therefore, the only way that there's going to be transparency and satisfaction is for us to have the information.
I would, I'm going to have to ask you to hold your applause. We would like to get through this in a meaningful way and have a good discussion. Reverend Brown, I think we all agree with everything that you just said. The timeline distresses all of us here as a city council, and we regret that we did not hear about it earlier. And we are having discussions on what we can do to avoid it in the future.
My name is...
Excuse me, we will not have speakers speaking out from the audience.
I share the exact same concern because it wasn't until last Tuesday that the city manager brought this to you, it appears. It was that Monday morning that we had a discussion about this. We've known about this in the community only because they're courageous police officers from inside the force who were willing to leak the information out. Had they not leaked it, we wouldn't know about this. And as the city attorney has said, what you just saw happen to Mr. York was described as he suffered no harm. The man was assaulted by the same officer who assaulted, snatched the camera out of Devin Scales' hands in 2014, threw Rufus to the ground, charged him with the same offenses. So we have a habitual offender. These people knew this was happening. Actually, as soon as the video had been taken and the assault made, there's irregularity in how the warrants were taken out. The woman officer that you folks seem to want to say is a hero or a shero, she went down and alleges that Mr. Yowes assaulted her. So poor Mr. Yowes was charged with resisting, obstruct, and delay on Cole, assaulting Cole, and assaulting Ms. Jackson, and neither one of them went before the magistrate to swear it. Instead, it appears a supervisor or a different officer, Mr. Sizemore, who has a questionable background anyway in the African American community, is the one that showed up to swear out these charges. We will not be satisfied with a resolution that cuts off the inquiry at Officer Cole. We cannot count on and trust the police department, the city attorney's office, or the city manager. Have an inquiry, get all the documents that were generated from this, but don't delegate that to these people who have a proven history of not even keeping you abreast and telling you, Mr. Wilkins, that you can't even see a videotape. This is not over.
Thank you. You are correct. You are correct, this is not over, and I don't think that passing a resolution should give anybody the opinion that it is over.
Right.
Thank you. I agree with the previous two speakers, but I wanted to introduce a kind of a macro level to this discussion. It was just last week that a police camera in Tulsa was flying in a helicopter over Terrence Crutcher, and they said, that man looks like a bad dude, okay? And we know what happened there. We know what happened there. I just want to say I am grateful to God that you are sitting here today. And I think God should be praised for that. But it also shows how close we are to a situation like that. Elie Wiesel once said, the Holocaust survivor Nobel laureate once said, those who keep silent yesterday will be silent tomorrow. And that's what really bothers me about some of my colleague Reverend Brown's remarks. It took a long time because people were silent. It's clear that the existential choice between that the city of Greensboro faces right now is, do we want to be like Tulsa or do we want to be like Charlotte? Do we want to be like Ferguson or do we want to be like Charleston, South Carolina? Do we want to be a city wherein there's trust, complete transparency, and the social capital of relationships have been built so that, God forbid, 1,000 million times some tragedy occurs, we will be able to deal with it in a constructive way. And the only way that's going to happen is to say, we've reached a level of transparency to this point, and that is not going to change as of October 1st when the Fair Cloth Bill goes into law. And we are not only going to be, we're not going to be satisfied with where we are right now on transparency, but we will need to move on to a greater degree. Jewish people are celebrating a week from today the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, which means the head of the year. It is hoped that it will not only be the head of the year, the beginning of the year for all of us, but also the beginning of change.
Thank you. One thing that I want to say on the record is, come October 1st, if there is a video like this, it wouldn't stop me from asking city staff to release it. So I think this council is willing to take a stand when we need to take a stand, and things like this need to be exposed. Nelson Johnson, followed by Reverend Bradley Hunt, followed by Irving Allen.
Is it okay if I go before Reverend Johnson?
Yes.
Good afternoon. I must admit, after watching the tape, I am outraged. It was hard for me to maintain emotional composure as I watched, because not only am I angry because of Brother Yorsay, but I'm angry because of the countless other brothers and sisters who have to go through this all the time and we don't even know their name. I'm outraged because I know that this happens all the time to people of color. And anytime you hear a young man on the floor, on the ground, being detained and calling for help from the police, we have a problem. We have a systematic problem, and Greensboro is not isolated. We are not alone. Police departments all over the country have to deal with these issues. On June 17th, we saw where Officer Jackson was right there with Officer Cole. We're not going to let her walk away from this like she wasn't there. She didn't go to the police department and report anything. She's a part of the problem, and she should be subjected to the same punishment that Officer Cole received. We see standards division.
I'm going to have to ask to please stop so the speakers can speak uninterrupted.
Mayor Vaughan, we see where the standards division had an opportunity to review this case. It said in the newspaper that their findings were unclear. How in the world can our investigative arm not take, but all it took you all was an hour to see that this was a problem? You mean to tell me the people that we look to investigate issues within the department can't find anything wrong with this immediately? We have a problem. Also, I want to know who was it that gave this to the chief? I want to know what captain was it that gave this information to the chief? Because I want to know how long they knew. We knew he got it August the 9th, but I want to know how long did it take them to receive this information. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
On Mr. Hunt's comments, if there could be a clarification. As I understand it and as I read the resolution and other materials that were provided, the police department in its internal investigation found that the officer did in fact violate policy. Is that right? Now, the professional standards body is a separate body from the city of Greensboro. Is that right?
Well, not from the city, no, sir. I mean, they are an investigative process. As a use of force, it would be investigated in the divisional level. And then the more serious accounts go to our internal review from the IA side.
So the standards division in Raleigh that speaks to the certification, that's a separate body?
Yes, yes. Okay. The Training and Standards Commission, yes.
Yes. Thank you.
My name is Nelson Johnson. I first want to attach myself to the comments that have already been made, and I won't repeat many of them. I also want to offer my sincere apology and my deepest concern to Mr. Yost and to this family for being violated in that way. I've struggled against this for the better part of my life. If this were just about Officer Cole, it would be fairly simple. He would be terminated, it would be over. Council, what's at issue here is police truthfulness, police transparency, and community trust. And I want you all to listen a little more sincerely. And Madam Mayor, you know I respect you, but it's not helping your standing to stop people from expressing themselves in here tonight. If this process is carried out by the internal mechanisms of the police culture, it simply will not engender trust. It won't do it. You have heard the comments today, and they are not coming from any place. They're coming from a history. They're coming from experiences. And actually, if you want to make this city better, I want to propose that this council, together with community leaders who've been involved in this issue, establish a citizens independent inquiry commission to explore every single facet of this case, because in this case is a molecule of DNA that will tell you something about the greater body. And I'm making that as a serious proposal, not to be rejected, That will actually help overcome some of the lack of transparency. Every single document needs to be made available. It will overcome some of the lack of trust, and it will lay the foundation for us to build a better city.
Thank you. Irving Allen, followed by Darius McCray, followed by Nicholas Knight.
Good afternoon, everyone. Like I said, I'm disturbed by the video. I stand on the shoulders of all the comments that were made, and I really just am appalled at the failure of accountability that we've seen in this tape in all facets of the institutions that we've seen. Because we recognize the problem, we've seen the problem, but what we see is that there are no measures of accountability that are being taken. And we've seen it in the cases across the country, and now we're seeing it here in Greensboro, to where that there has obviously been harm done, there's obviously been damage done to the community, and no one's being held accountable. There are processes and procedures that are failing because people are scapegoating out. They're finding the ways to duck around the system that we build, and the only way that that is going to change is if we open up these processes and let the community in to be at the table when these police departments are making up their procedures. We don't need a call after it's done to approve it. We need to be in the room when the council are making up these procedures and policies, so that we don't get a call when the meeting is happening that y'all need to come and show your face. We don't need you to come and sit quietly in our community meetings and just take in the information and get glazed over what we're talking about it, because this is not the first time. Devin and Rufus Scales, we brought the video that Devin shot, and y'all didn't believe us. Y'all didn't believe what was going on with the exact same officer who is a training officer, who is training other officers to do these things, who was acquitted for the first time he assaulted Devin and Rufus, and now we're here today, and he can't be punished because he resigned. So what are we talking about? There is no accountability in this system, and the community needs to be responsible for not only telling you how you need to hold these people accountable, but for also building the accountability measures, and for also coming here and making sure that you do your job, because obviously people aren't doing their jobs if this is happening in Greensboro.
Thank you.
And I need everybody in here to go down to Charlotte as well, too, because we're going to continue this rising. We're rising all over. Black Lives Matter. Stand up.
Excuse me. I do want to say, though, that he hasn't escaped punishment. I mean, we are sending the file up to Raleigh to see if he would lose his license, and we've asked the district attorney. Excuse me. And we have asked the district attorney to review the file for charges again. So, but I want you to know that this is, excuse me, we are being accountable. Thank you. Okay, no, it's. Mr. McCray? I'm sorry, can you remove them? No. Yes, we need to move on. No. Then listen, I have asked you to be respectful. I have asked you to be respectful. If you can sit down. If you can sit down and be respectful and allow us to continue the city council meeting, you can stay.
I don't know.
Excuse me. Mr. McCray?
I'm not going to say much. I'm not going to be up here long because everyone said what I already discussed, but let's flip the situation right now. Like, if it was a black person doing the same exact thing, we would be, no question, investigated, in jail, thrown in jail immediately for harassment. But like, in this situation, it takes so long. Like, I just don't understand. I mean, I was gonna touch on how, like, when he was up there, it was like so many questions that did not have to be asked. It was unnecessary. Like, it was not needed at all. Like, it was things that didn't have anything to do with the actual case for the reason he was up there. And I feel like we don't need to do that. And like, the question is, what can we do now? Like you say, like, the next step is punishment, but I feel like it cannot just be him. It has to be the whole police department that was involved at that matter. They have to be in that investigation. It can't just be that one person. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Knight?
If we don't get no justice. My name is Nicholas Knight. I'm a sophomore political science student at North Carolina A&T, and I want to start my statements off by saying that we do not accept that resolution. We do not. And I want to bounce off of what Reverend Nelson Johnson was saying about how the DNA molecule and how that's just one little issue of the entire body. You do not address a disease by attacking the symptoms. If I have an infection, don't give me Tylenol PM and expect me to be okay. It's an infection. Cure the disease. Find the cause of the disease. Right now, all of us, A&T, Guilford College, UNCG, Bennett Bells, we are all at a cultural dis-ease with Greensboro police officers. And we do not accept this resolution because all it is that we need all the information given to us because the public owns that information. It is our right to that information. We need all of that. We want to know who had the tape, how long they had it. We want to know why it wasn't released immediately, and we need proper measures taking place. And because we all know that this goes deeper than just Officer Cole and Officer Jackson. So that is all I need to say. Thank you for your time. God bless you.
Thank you. Candy Bynum, followed by Michelle Kennedy, followed by Julie Peoples.
Kanai Bynum.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Kanai Bynum.
I wanted to talk to you guys about the experience I had September 22nd in Charlotte. I was praying, I was meditating during the chaos. My hands were like this, and then it became like this. If I can get arrested for praying and meditating, anyone can get arrested and killed for being locked out of their mother's home, for reading a book, for anything. There's this, but you can't even be surprised because this system was never made for us. We are oppressed through the system. As long as we're part of this system, we'll be slaves to this system. We need to create our own system. We need to love ourselves. We need to invest in ourselves. We need to love ourselves. That's it. Peace.
There's not a lot that's already been said that I don't agree with. I really just have two short points today. One is I think that it's time that somebody in this room stood and looked at you, Mr. Yorst, and at every black face in this room and said, we as white people won't stop until every white police officer's knee is removed from the neck of every black person in this community. As a leader, we have great responsibility, whether it's an organization like mine or the City of Greensboro or the Greensboro Police Department. I believe that when something happens in your shop, you have a responsibility to carry it to the line, get it resolved, address it with transparency. To me, in an instance like this, it would be time for me to get out of the seat. I believe there comes a time when we want to keep talking about all the rotten apples that we have, but we flatly refuse to consider that the entire orchard is falling down around us and see what we're doing to this community.
Julie Peoples, followed by Addie Jeffrey, Kiana Moreau. Kiana, I apologize.
Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers. Jesus also showed with his life there's no peace without justice. This is a critical moment. It is time for us to be bold, to look at this entire situation. There are no shortcuts to justice or to peace. There is no easy fix. We need to really deeply hear, for us white folks, the pain in this room, the pain beyond this room, and to not simply do window dressing. It is time for us to look at the entire system, to do everything we can so that there is no more reason for us to gather in the plaza and chant. The time has come for us to do the hard things, the bold things, the right things. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Addie Jeffrey, and I was asked to be part of the Community City Working Group a few months ago. I am a member of the Latino community here in Greensboro, and this is difficult for me because I have a lot of close friends who are police officers, and I know that they do a great job on a daily basis, and I care about them deeply. And looking into some of the issues surrounding body cam issues as part of the Community City Working Group, I discovered a report that was written about 3 months ago, or updated about 3 months ago, by NYU School of Law. And I will leave this with council so you can review it. And it talks about accountability, and there's one particular part of this report that was very concerning, of what the policy is in different cities across the country. Can an officer view a video before making their report or statement? The case in Charlotte is that yes, an officer before writing his report can view the body cam video. From the little bit that we've been able to find, I believe in Greensboro, a police officer is permitted to look at the video prior to writing his report. And I wanted to highlight that the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the ACLU have actually recommended different things on this matter, and the ACLU recommends that review of a video should be prohibited before completing initial report statements and interviews. And as well, there are concerns by the Association of Chiefs of Police that if an officer is suspected of wrongdoing, that he not be allowed to view body cam video. So we have a lot of concerns about this, and I will leave this report with council.
Thank you. Ms. Morrow?
Yeah, it was Kiana. You're fine. I would just like to do, it's not really a statement, but points that I've witnessed in the video. The removal of the body cam that I was saying from Officer Cole. What is the procedure behind that when an officer can remove while they are currently in the middle of detaining? I'll also say the language that the officer used, highly unnecessary. The prison tattoo, it was highly unnecessary. It was not even his business. Also, the composure of your officers when he was on the phone. His mother had called. He said he was being harassed. That was no point of the officer should have ever lose his composure to even take the cell phone. Also, I would like to say that the one more officer, Officer Jackson, also we need more integrity of the officers in Greensboro when they do see something wrong. I feel like that should have been the moment of when he was on the phone talking about the harassment. That should have been the moment where she asked her partner to stand back and basically to gain himself, because that's totally unacceptable. And my sincere apologies for that, because I also could not finish watching after it was just too much. But that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last two speakers are Kiera, no last name, and Alicia Stewart.
Madam Mayor, while they're coming up, I wanted to ask the Yours family if after this they wanted to make any comments. We certainly would be open to hearing them. Oh, she said she already asked him. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Kiera Herford, no last name, even though it wasn't put on the paper. Kiera would have been just fine. I'm here today because I'm really fresh off the streets from Charlotte, North Carolina, where the uprising is happening, Charlotte uprising right now. There's many points that I would like to speak to today, but the main thing is that we're just frustrated. We're tired. We're dying. And it's not enough. What you're doing is not enough. Your resolution is not enough. Having so much pressure to release these video cameras is not enough. The footage, it's not enough. You're falling short, each and every last one of you. Last week I called out our black elected officials, purposely called in, because there's not enough action that's going on around what's happening to us. And we're fighting for your lives too. With that being said, I'm gonna use my minute wisely. There's several things that address this institutional racism that we're facing here, not only in Greensboro. Greensboro is Ferguson. Greensboro is Baltimore. Greensboro is Charleston. We are no different. Until you want to dismantle the system that we're all oppressed by every day, we cannot do this. We cannot survive this way. When you have officers referring to our queer, trans community as homosexuals on footage, that's an issue. And you represent organizations that serve these people. But the service is not there, the commitment is not there from you all. Because the community, we got our back regardless. I'd also like to say that the hyper-surveillance of us as activists, protesters as you deem us as, community changers as we are, it's too much. Your departments that are monitoring our Facebooks and our social media, that money that's being spent could be money to help save our lives. Black Lives Matter.
Good afternoon. My name is Alicia Stewart, and I'm a freshman attending North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. My apologies specifically to the USA family, and my deepest concern also lies with the victims of police brutality whose assaulting officer still either holds their position or resigned and reapplied with another police program. Other officers like Joshua Ryan Payne, 2013 case, other Officer Jackson, Officer Miller, they're either users of excessive force or an accessory to the fact, and they are still employed as active police officers. There's a failure of accountability, and we need to look at the culture of the local government that creates the standard for state-sponsored murder or state-sponsored assault or state-sanctioned police violence. To take away the rights to public property and public proof of murder or assault by police officers sets the standard that police officers are protected and not the communities that they are committing violence, brutality, and murder toward. A local government's mandate and precedent is to be for the people. With bills like House Bill 972, it leaves a disposition in the people's minds that local government is against the people and on the side of the murderers and the supposed protectors of society. In communities that police officers serve, obstructive use of force is a criminal offense and with due process is perceived as assault and subjects the criminal to time served and indictment if you were a member of society or of the community. Why is that standard not set for police officers? If I were to approach a young person on their porch and assault them, I would be arrested. We need to reestablish community trust. And we need a reestablishment of local government and the things that you ought to uphold, such as justice, such as service, and protection. And also, Deputy Chief Henson is over patrol of Officer Cole. What was his involvement?
I want I want to thank the speakers for their comments. I know that they were all heartfelt, and we are listening to them. And I think as a city council, we want to say that we agree Black Lives Matter. What happened in that videotape was unacceptable, and it's unacceptable for our city, and it's unacceptable. We have a large population here that we need to protect just like we do everyone else. I apologize for what happened. This is not the city of Greensboro that I want to be the mayor of. I want to see a change.
Mayor. Mayor.
Well,
Mayor, if I may.
Wait, excuse me, we got through the speakers, please. Let count. Please.
No.
Council would like to finish our comments, please.
Yeah, I'd like to have an opportunity to speak at some point.
Please,
Okay, see,
please.
I knew that's what-
Mr. Wilkins? Okay. Mrs. Hoffman?
I would just like to extend my apology to the Yours family as well. I think the other members of council here today have done that. I, however, would like to remind our citizens and everyone present today the actions of this council and this city. We were the first city in North Carolina to have issue body-worn cameras to our police department. We are the first city in North Carolina to adopt a policy, to write and adopt a policy for release of that footage. Number 3, we have a zero tolerance policy in this city with our police department for racial profiling.
Please
and
stop. Mrs. Hoffman, are you through?
Make one more point.
All right, stop. Please. Please stop. Please. Mrs. Hoffman, are you ready?
I don't think so.
Are you through?
Mayor, what I would like to say, and I know Ms. Hoffman was speaking. Do you want to finish, Mrs. Hoffman?
Well,
Because
I have one more point, but
yeah,
I don't think it's...
no, go ahead with your point, because I think the audience really needs to hear us, and they're not giving us an opportunity, because we have the same frustration you do. So go ahead, and then, yes, ma'am, I do, because I'm the same black color as you.
Again,
yes, I do.
My fourth point was that the action taken by this council really is setting an example of how members of our police department's behavior will be handled and looked at in the future. So I think we have been very proactive in dealing with this particular situation. That sets an example for what our expectations are and what we're going to do in the future. I and all members of council, don't quite understand and are certainly not happy with the 3-month timeline. But we understand the process that created that, but our chief of police, as of last week, indicated that timeline for the future would be reduced considerably.
Can I have a movement to adjourn?
No.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
That's fine, but listen, I just want to say to the audience, I appreciate. Come on
Okay.
up, Mr. Yours, if you will.
Wait, Wait.
How's everybody doing?
Excuse me. Mr. Yorst, were you given the opportunity in the beginning of the meeting to speak? Did I give you
Yes, ma'am.
the
Yes, ma'am.
opportunity?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to
Thank
say
you.
thank you to the community for coming out here. I want to thank everybody that's getting involved. I'm pretty sure you have other things to be doing, and I'm very grateful and I appreciate it. On behalf of my family, on behalf of everyone here, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Hightower, are you through?
No, I wasn't. I wanted him to have an opportunity. And I too have a myriad of questions that I think there's a whole 4 or 5 pages here that we've been asking for the last 3, 4 days. One of the things that disturbs me, I'm very disturbed by the video, first of all, and again, I apologize to Mr. Yorsay and his family for his negative encounter, if you will, and that's terming it very lightly. Secondly, I don't know why Officer Cole wasn't fired. I have a problem with that because if excessive force, as the young lady stated, if I did it, I'd be arrested. And I would have to face some kind of charges. So simply charging this gentleman and then saying you dismiss the charges, to me, that's treated very lightly, because that's still on his record, even if it's dismissed. When somebody looks at it, they'll see those charges of assault against an officer. That needs to totally be removed. And however we can remove that.
Mrs. Hightower, would you like to make the motion that the city move to
Yes,
expunge those charges?
I would
May
like
I have a
to.
second? That was
Ms.
moved
Hightower,
by,
I'll second that.
moved by Mrs. Hightower, seconded by Mrs. Johnson.
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that I understand what's happening, because the reality here is the city of Greensboro is not the only institution of government, and I don't know of how the city of Greensboro can make an expungement decision. So I know a number of us on council this past week probably spent the majority of the past week dealing with these issues, asking questions, and I would love to give people the red meat and they could feel like it's a victory and that we did something expunging the record, but I don't know that the city of Greensboro can in fact
But we
expunge the record.
do have that as part of our police community review
That's
board.
right.
If we find, please allow us to speak.
To be clear, if we can do it, that's great. I'm supportive of it. I'm sure everyone would be supportive of it. I think our directive to staff over the course of the past week was give us options and alternatives for holding these persons accountable. If we can do it, I want to do it, but...
Mr. Outland,
please be quiet.
Mr. Councilman Outland, let me say this to you.
Sure.
Let me just say this to you. Mr. Outland, you like to overtalk, so you're not going to do that to me today. If I, as a city council,
We can't
yell at each other.
Sharon, I'm in agreement with you. We're all in agreement. It's a simple question to the city attorney.
Mr. City Attorney, the Police Community Review Board, when it's found that charges are unsubstantiated in our new policy, aren't we moving to expunge those charges?
We are providing financial assistance to seek expungement, which is an order of the court when it's within the narrow window afforded by the General Assembly.
Okay, so we would like to reflect that in this case as well.
That's right.
That we will do financial assistance to expunge those charges.
I second it.
Well, so it was kind of standing by Mrs. Hightower and
I second it.
Mrs. Johnson, all in favor?
I was unable to hear the attorney. Can you state it clearly?
The General Assembly has provided a narrow window of circumstance where judges may consider and expunge charges and even limited convictions. And they are typically limited by age and those with minor infractions on their previous records.
And I believe that is a one-time occurrence. Is that right? Isn't that a one-time occurrence? It is a one-time occurrence, so.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mrs. Hightower, a second by Mrs. Johnson. We are directing staff to move forward with that. Madam Clerk, voice or recorded? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Fox, are you still here? I think he had lost the signal, so he has not been, so that would still be an 8-0 vote.
He hasn't been excused yet.
Correct.
Well, 7-0. Mr. Barber is not here.
Well, it's eight.
Okay.
Should we then excuse Mr. Fox?
Okay, Mrs. Hightower, were you?
No, I was in no way finished, but if Mr. Allen feels he wants to speak first, I'm going to step back and let him so I can maybe finish my statement, because I have some serious concerns here. Several of the things that these speakers brought up, and I had asked specifically for a timeline. I got a very vague description within the body of the timeline. I am too concerned, if I may. Who saw the video first? And why wasn't the information reported from that video? This video's been around since 6/17. And to simply say it popped up the other day when I asked the city attorney to let me see it or let us see it in closed session. The letter that came that morning, I think, from the Faith, I don't think, Tom, you had gotten that letter when I spoke to you Monday afternoon. And so I asked you on Monday afternoon to see the video myself, because I heard the rumblings from the community. I am a city council representative. I am very disturbed by the simple fact that I am elected to be a leader and represent this community, and I've been disregarded in the fact that I know nothing about what happened in this incident. I have asked for all the officers' statements, both written and verbal. I have asked for the notes. I asked for the timeline. I got a timeline that said somebody looked at it and then they sent it on to somebody else, and then somebody sent it on to the captain, and the captain sent it to the chief, and the deputy chief, and then the deputy chief sent it to the chief. There's something wrong here, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't smell right to me. And I just want us to be as transparent, as legally as possible, that we can be transparent. And I think that we're missing some critical elements in this particular process. We are missing, and I think, Mayor, we're missing an opportunity to really show this community we mean business, that we won't take it from anyone who should have reported to us, reported up through the chain, if you will. But we were the last link in this chain. The last link, not the middle, but we were the last. And I'm disturbed that even some of our leadership underneath us don't get it. There has to be accountability. There has to be responsibility. We were elected to be in charge, period, point blank, end of story. That's it. Everybody else underneath is hired and fired. They can be here or not be here. And I think until people recognize how important this city council is to making the decisions in this community, in this city, they don't need to work for us. And I am unhappy. I am very disturbed. When I look at this timeline, that to me was they gave me just enough what they thought I would be satisfied with, and I'm not. I'm not satisfied at all. And to make excuses that it's a CID investigation, and that makes me really concerned when people have talked about independent review board. We need one. A police department is not doing a good job of investigating themselves. And I've been agonizing over this. I have agonized over this. because this is critical, ladies and gentlemen, to how we operate in this city, okay? And it doesn't mean that I don't respect police